Hello, and welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Andrea, and I am pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we're advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. We thank those of you watching on YouTube, live or later, and invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you are able to attend live, we encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Our weekly newsletter includes the Sunday service link, and you can subscribe to receive that on our website at uofva.org. For everyone local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter at uofva.org for all the details. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now, here's Reverend Cheryl.
Thank you, Andrea, and welcome everyone who is with me in the Zoom room right now, and all of you who are watching on YouTube, whether you're watching now or later or picking up the link on Facebook sometime later. We are just so happy to have you as a part of the energy that is Unity of Fredericksburg. So our broadcast date today is Sunday, March the 1st. It's March. How did that happen so quickly? Just a little bit about March. March is one of two months with a name that's also a word, right? Because the verb to march. So the word March has Latin roots and also roots in Old French. A verb, marcher, meaning to tread or to move. And it definitely feels like a time of year where after we've been kind of slumbering and hibernating in winter, in March, things get moving. There will be a lot of things happening in this month. In most states of the United States, we will move to daylight saving time next Sunday, overnight going into March the 8th. Our time will change, and later on in March, spring will officially begin with the vernal equinox on March the 20th. Although I am told that meteorologists actually look to March the 1st as when they start actively documenting spring patterns in weather. So, March symbolically represents new growth, new beginnings, and fertility, right? So, all kinds of new projects, new ideas. So, welcome everyone to the month of March. So, here at Unity of Fredericksburg in 2026, each month will kind of have a different focus that is based on our annual theme. And our focus for the month of March is wholeness, being whole. As we affirm, we are whole in spirit. So say it with me, friends. We are whole in spirit. Let's say it one more time. We are whole in spirit. Indeed, we are. And this focus on wholeness comes directly from the requests of our community, along with the topic of healing, because healing and wholeness go together. So today we're going to focus particularly on healing. Next Sunday, we'll be looking more at wholeness. So let's start by just kind of clarifying some meanings around all of these words because they mean lots of different things to lots of different people, right? So these definitions they're not really definitions, but as we clarify, these come from a unity ministry based in the state of Michigan called Peace Unity Community. It's a fairly new online ministry. I know when I saw it, I signed up to receive their weekly email from Peace Unity Community, and it has lots of wonderful quotes and things that I can pull from and bring those to you on Sundays. So their focus this year is on wholeness and healing. So here's what they have to say, Peace Unity Community. Wholeness is our natural state of being, one with God and one with all that is. So that's our natural state of being. Health is one of the ways that wholeness expresses through us when we are in balance with what is. All right, so that's health. Healing is the process where we return to our natural state when we find ourselves out of balance. So those are good ways to kind of define those words as we go forward. I will also mention that wholeness and health are both expressions of Unity's power of life, one of the 12 powers. So, expressions of that power of life include vitality and energy and wholeness and health. So again, we'll kind of focus on the wholeness part next week. Today, my title is The Gift of Healing. And to follow the tradition of Sesame Street, I want to say today's message is brought to you by the letter O, because everything kept coming up O's for me as I was preparing. So the first gift of healing that I want to talk about is that healing is ongoing. So the letter O, ongoing. So back to those definitions we just reviewed, healing is the process where we return to our natural state when we find ourselves out of balance. Now, there's sometime in recent months, and I need to kind of go back and find the quote where it came from. That we had a quote from someone who was kind of clarifying around balance. That balance is not like a perfect state or a goal that we're seeking, but like healing, balance is an ongoing activity that we do as human beings. And that activity is made up of first noticing when we have strayed from our spiritual center or from a chosen way of being or practice, when we've strayed from that. And then the activity of bringing ourselves back to what we claim to be our center. So noticing, taking action, and that this activity of healing and balance is ongoing. It's happening all the time. It's not something that was like we achieve and check it off the list. It's just an ongoing activity. Kind of if you think about a boat out on the water. And of course, the boat is comfortably on top of the water. Sometimes it's bobbing very gently when the current is nice and gentle, and sometimes when the waves get big and the wind kicks up, then what needs to happen to, be doing balance is a lot more, to kind of deal with the currents. And no matter what the circumstances, the boat just naturally moves with the water in that process of balance. And just like healing, there are times when things are just kind of cruising along, it's smooth, we're smooth sailing, and then other times where we have a lot to deal with. And healing is an ongoing, a lifelong activity. Some talk about from the actual moment of birth, uh, we are engaged in healing. So we go from the womb, a very cozy and safe space where we are feeling at one. We are feeling at one with the mother energy that we're with in the womb. And then at birth, we are dramatically separated and find ourselves in a world that's filled a lot of times with artificial light and noise and all kinds of pressures and things like that. So, some say that healing is a process of that we start right at that moment of reconciling that sense of separation. And we have this ongoing pattern of finding our way back to that feeling of oneness we had in the womb, feeling oneness with all that is, with that which we call God, with nature, all of these things. So one gift of healing. That's our topic for today, the gift of healing, whether we notice it or not, that our body, our heart, our mind they're always in that process of returning us to that feeling of oneness, of wholeness. So, one of the most splendid examples is a really simple example. It's one that Eric Butterworth writes about in Discover the Power Within You. He talks about the simple little injury of getting a cut on our finger. So let's say we're cooking dinner, or we're, using scissors or whatever it is that we're doing, gardening. Oops, we get a cut in our finger. So once you kind of stop the bleeding, you put on a bandage, then you go on with your day, right? You're not worrying about whether or not that finger will heal. You know it will. You have faith that it will, because based on your previous experience as a human being and understanding how your body works, you know that your body will kind of like magic just come back together. And, within a few days, you can do without the bandage. It might be a tiny little scar for a little while, but your body knows what to do. All those cells in your finger recognize, whoop, we've had an interruption here. Well, let's work on bringing ourselves back to wholeness, back to that oneness of being a finger again rather than having a wound. Every cell in our body knows its purpose. And if an interruption happens, it knows what to do to come back to center. You don't have to talk with your finger, right? You don't have to tell it what to do. It knows what to do. And sure enough, it just comes back together into perfect alignment. And that ongoing activity of healing, of balance. Ta-da! What a gift that is. What a gift that this is going on in the background all the time. Now, sure enough, we have incidents that are beyond a cut in the finger, but just knowing, recognizing that activity of healing, coming back into balance, coming back into wholeness and oneness is constant. It's ongoing. That gift of healing is trustworthy, and it happens in our body, in our heart, in our mind, whether we notice it or not, right? Whether we have enough attention to kind of put on the Band-Aid and go on, or if we just know that we've been through a moment and our very, being as humans, we come back together. So let's just take a moment to just express our gratitude for the wonders of healing. So here's an affirmation. All right. I am grateful for the gift of healing. I'm going to say it with me. I am grateful for the gift of healing. Let's say it one more time. All right. I am grateful for the gift of healing. Now, we know that we can support our own healing through our spiritual practice. That's what we're here to talk about. Every week, we're talking about spiritual practices, practically applying our spiritual practices. We know that we can choose spiritual practices that support certain circumstances in our lives. We kind of, on Sundays, we come and we collect more ideas about different things that we could try at different times. We know that by working with our thoughts and our words, that we can support ourselves when we find ourselves out of balance and needing some healing. And doing so with faith that is grounded in trust for this ongoing nature of healing. And this is the way the universe expresses itself within our human beingness. So here's a quote from Emily Cady, who's the author of Lessons in Truth. Now, this is one of the foundational books in Unity. Goes back to the history of Unity when Unity founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were so busy doing their prayer ministry, doing their publications and all that, that they needed some help with someone like writing down. People kept asking, like, what is it that we believe in unity? What, and so and Emily Cady was she was a physician in the Northeast in New York, and they asked her. She was publishing some essays and things like that. So they were in touch. She was in touch with the Fillmores, and they asked her if she would publish a series of articles, which was then turned into this book, Lessons in Truth, which essentially spills out the belief system of unity. So all of that's a little background on Emily Cady. Here's a quote from Lessons in Truth. The ultimate aim of every person should be to come into the consciousness of an indwelling God, and then in all external matters to affirm deliverance through and by this divine one. There should not be a running to and fro, making human efforts to aid the divine, but a calm, restful, unwavering trust in all wisdom and all power within one as able to accomplish the thing desired. So, my goodness, no running to and fro, my friends. We want to have a calm, restful, unwavering trust. So, say it with me again. I am grateful for the gift of healing. Yes, we are. All right, I mentioned earlier, today's message is brought to you by the letter O. Next up, I have a pair of O's for us, obstacles and opportunities. So we know that in human life, stuff happens, right? Stuff happens. Weather happens, accidents happen, people make choices, sometimes poor choices. Sometimes when stuff happens, people get hurt. I get hurt, you get hurt, people you love get hurt. So when injury or illness happens, from our human brain, we tend to view this as an obstacle, something that's in the way, blocking us from our perfect health, a problem to be fixed, managed, corrected. And I would like to suggest that as we step into our spiritual power, we reframe our language and our mindset around when things happen. And rather than seeing circumstances in your life as an obstacle, claim and name your situation as an opportunity. How does that feel? What do you think about that? Now, I can hear some skeptical minds out there might label that kind of approach as overly optimistic. And I say, when it comes to healing, this shift, this mindset of shifting from obstacle thinking to opportunity thinking is a game changer. Now, here's a personal story. So back in 2015, I was involved in a traumatic auto accident. And it was severe enough that when I asked the medical team, so how many broken bones do I have? They became evasive and could not answer. They used words like shattered. Now, I had been in Unity for almost 20 years at that point. kind of building up my collection of spiritual tools for managing my own consciousness. So I recognized that moment as a choice point because I know that I'm in charge of my life. I get to choose how to label and define my circumstances. Other people don't do that for me. I don't identify as shattered. So I went to work applying practices that I knew would support me in my healing process. I created an affirmation, and anytime I was conscious and awake, I was working that affirmation. Also, anytime I was awake in consciousness, I was actively identifying with wholeness and complete aspects of my divine nature as I had learned them, like all of my 12 powers that I'm just constantly, I have nothing else to do, right? There's a lot of healing to happen. So I'm just actively doing that all the time. And when people asked me how I was doing or what was going on, I told them I was experiencing a demonstration opportunity. This was my chance to put to use all the tools that I had learned over the years in Unity, and I claimed this as an opportunity. And I encourage you to do the same, to make that shift. Stuff happens in life. Don't limit yourself by labeling that stuff as an obstacle. Apply yourself to seeing it as an opportunity to do that spiritual practice, an opportunity to be in that mindset that you claim that you have of knowing that all that is, that which we call God is expressing at the point of view, be in that space. Here's a quote from Ernest Holmes. Now, he is the founder of Science of Mind, sort of a sister new thought, a sibling, let's say a sibling new thought denomination with Unity. And this comes from something that Ernest Holmes wrote called It's Up to You. Ernest Holmes says, I believe that the greatest single curative power known to the mind of man is a spiritual thought in the subjective mind. By spiritual thought, I mean here an absolute inner conviction that one may trust in the integrity of the universe and that sooner or later all things will be made right. In other words, a demonstration opportunity. All right, we've talked a little bit about stuff happens. Another thing we tend to see as an obstacle is actually communication from our bodies. The body communicates with us with all manner of sensations, right? Pain, changes in our breathing, tingling, dizziness, and very often our human brain views these symptoms as obstacles rather than embracing them with compassion. The body calls us to pay attention, notice something's out of balance. And when we view these kind of symptoms that arise as an obstacle, as something to be managed or fixed or a problem, we might label it as, oh, my bum knee, my bad back, this cursed chronic disease I have. We're reacting from our human nature, and some of us will avoid that pain, ignore the little fluttering that we're having, figure out ways around the stiffness or whatever, rather than giving it the attention that it's asking for. So when we're willing to view this communication from the body as an opportunity to step into healing, to express compassion at the level of our self, rather than an obstacle, we can step into a sacred space of self-care. knowing that this physical vehicle is ours to care for. It's our job to care for this and feed it correctly, exercise it. And when it shows us that something's out of alignment, to notice and to take steps to care for it. This body is a holy temple that is available for us to use to experience this life. When we make that shift from viewing the body's messages as obstacles to opportunities, we open ourselves to the gifts of healing. We create space to label our human experience as sacred, this body as holy, as precious. We open ourselves to all the gifts that can come from actually being in and doing our spiritual practice, the gifts of healing. Here are a couple more quotes. Here's a quote from the teachings of the Buddha. To enjoy health, bring happiness and peace, one must discipline one's mind. Find the way to enlightenment and wisdom. What you think, you become. There's that choice point. What are you going to label it as, whatever it is? Are you going to label it as an obstacle and go at dealing with it? Are you going to label it as an opportunity and open yourself to the gifts of healing? Here's some more from Unity founder Myrtle Fillmore. Sometimes we pray to a God outside ourselves. It is the God in the midst of us that frees and heals. You need to think of God, the all-powerful healer, as being already within you in every part of your mind, heart, and body. So, looking for opportunities to know and express, that leads us to the gifts of healing, right? I am grateful for the gifts of healing. Now, these are just some. These are just some. Next week, we'll cover some more. And the year to come, the months to come, we will continue to circle back to this topic of healing and wholeness. It's a passion of mine. So I look forward to that. So as you go through your week to come, I encourage you to lean into gratitude for the ongoing nature of healing, this divine activity that's taking place all the time, whether you notice it or not. The cells of your body know what to do. Your heart knows what to do. It's always happening. So lean into gratitude around that and ask yourself, are you willing to shift your thinking from seeking and labeling circumstances as obstacles into discovering opportunities? Those are some things you can do this week. So right now, we're going to take all of this into our time of meditation together. And I'm going to begin our time of meditation with a little reading from this book called This Life is Yours by Linda Martella Whitsett, a Unity minister, and her daughter Alicia Whitsett. Before we get to that reading, let's take a couple of deep breaths together. And with each breath in and out, we are quieting the busyness of our brains, creating sacred space here together. And listen to these wonderful words. I turn my attention toward the center of my being, where the power of love lives deep within. I breathe deeply in a state of divine love. the love that casts out fear, eases tension, and brings peace. With every heartbeat, divine life pulses, bringing relief and release to every point of pain. With every breath, wholeness radiates within, and each cell vibrates with the fullness of life. I rest with ease in my true state of wholeness, peace, and well-being. And now we will move into a time in the stillness together. And as we begin to bring our attention back to the here and now, just feel your body in the seat. Feel the air against your skin. Feel the breath moving in and out of the body. Just for a moment, see if you can tune in to that activity that's always happening in the background, that activity of healing, coming back together into the wholeness that is the truth of what we are. Recognizing the gifts of healing right here and right now. And let's close our time of meditation with that same affirmation we've been working this morning. I am grateful for the gifts of healing. Say it with me a few times, friends. Here we go. I am grateful for the gifts of healing. I am grateful for the gifts of healing. I am grateful for the gifts of healing. All right. I know I'm grateful. I hope you're feeling it too. And I'm going to hand it back over to our friend Andrea.
That was exquisite, Reverend Cheryl. Thanks for watching the weekly broadcast from Unity of Fredericksburg. Visit our website, uofva.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation, and support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.